Good morning, YouTube. This is your buddy Choppadong coming at you with another video. This one is related to NHL. As I start getting cranked for the week and I'm way behind schedule, but as I start getting cranked up for NFL for Week 17, I can't help but think as the season winds down, we're going to start transferring over, and we have a lot of NBA coverage already going on inside DFSArmy.com, so I usually slide over and help out the NHL guys. We've got a few guys that are contributing this year too, so the room is better than it was last year, and I encourage you as always to go to dfsarmy.com, follow the link in the description of this tab, and become a VIP member over at the Army, because what we do for one-stop shopping with providing tools and content and the optimizer for NBA and NFL and a lot of the NHL content that we're working to bring to you guys is really second to none, but really what does it all is this community here, this Slack chat forum. You can see we give some line recommendations for guys to pick from with one of our tournament experts, Shady. We've got up here, we've got a chart we did yesterday anyway. We had a chart up here that's a pretty cool chart for the DraftKings Pick'em contests if you're into that, but we've always got discussion going on right and left, talking hockey strategy, talking which lines. We've got new guys coming in all the time that are asking great questions for beginners. So if you've never played hockey before, I recommend that you give us a look and give us a shot. One low price. Use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, and get yourself a 10% discount off of the normal rates. And let's kind of jump in. I want to show you what I did today. I built the lineup just for fun. This is a bad lineup, guys. It might be fine. I don't really know. I'm out of touch with hockey right now, but I'll quickly get brought up to speed. I want to show you the fundamentals of what I do and why I do it, though, just so we can start knocking the rust off each other together. First thing I do is I usually run over to Roto Grinders. You can use Left Wing Lock. You can use Corsica.hockey for a lot of your stats and stuff. But for me, the Roto Grinders front page, the daily lineups page, is what helps me organize my thoughts best. It's what I've always done. It's what I'll continue to do. And until we get some of these types of tools over at dfsarmy.com, this is where I generally start my day. I'm looking for big favorites and high implied totals, just like NFL. Big favorites, high implied totals. I want to see them bigger than minus 125. 180 is fine. Waiting for some lines to come out on these other guys. Minus 130, minus 140, those are all okay. Minus 117. So right now it looks like your chalk goalie for cash is going to be right here in Toronto going up against Arizona. I don't like the 6 over under, as I like a lower scoring game for my goalies, but you know, it is what it is. I might end up going a different direction. I don't really know. The other thing that I like to do is I like to get a feel for the league. So I'll go to like an NHL.com and I'll look at who are the points leaders, what teams have the highest goals for, what teams have the highest goals against. And I'm looking for a team with a high goals for going against a team with a high goals against, because it tells me a team scoring a lot of goals is going up against a team giving up a lot of goals. And we've got a couple of matchups worth noting today on this slate. You jump down here, Tampa Bay is one of the higher scoring teams in the league. Montreal tends to give up some goals. Toronto is a higher scoring team in the league. Toronto tends to give up goals as well. Vegas Knights, team that scores a lot of goals. Now, the Kings are a very good defensive team, but this is kind of interesting for tournament stuff. This isn't a bad way to go. Vegas is overlooked. You've got a few one-offs in this team. You know, not a lot of stuff for Kopitar's one of the points leaders around the league. Beeser's one of the points leaders around the league. So that gives you an opportunity to sprinkle in some one-offs into your lineups. So what I'm going to typically try and do is start targeting teams. So I'm going to start off with the chalky line of Stamkos and Kucherov, both on the points board, both leading, one leading goal scorer, one leading assists leader. These guys are good for points. They're pretty cash safe, night in and night out. Now I will slip down into another team that I was targeting, which is Toronto, and I'll load up maybe one of the defensemen and one of the wingers. And I don't see anybody else on there because I typically don't put more than 2 in there for cash lineup builds because I start getting a little bit too tightly focused and dependent on one offense. So I kind of tend to cap it at 2. But I want these guys either on the same power play unit or the same scoring lines, which I'll show you here in a second. Then I jumped over to Vegas and looked for some value. And so I've got a couple of guys here. I've got Beaster as a one-off, like I said. And, you know, Alec Martinez is a one-off for the LA game. I guess I was going to run Kopitar, so maybe that's what I was thinking. This is a little bit of Kopitar exposure. Ended up picking up Forsberg for cheap since Chicago was favored over Vancouver. It's not really the smartest thing in the world to run Beaster against Forsberg, but today it is what it is. Like I said, this is not a great lineup. It's not a great fundamental lineup. It's just something to quickly show you kind of what I'm looking for. When we look at Tampa Bay, Vegas, and Toronto, let me show you why I like those guys, what the options were. Like I said, they're scoring a lot of points typically this year. Kucherov and Stamkos are on the same line. They also share the same power play unit. This is a very tightly focused line. They're on the ice together a lot. They're also very expensive because they're scoring a ton of points. That's fine, but what I tend to do is I would take, say, Kucherov and then pair him with Tyler Johnson. I think his name's Tyler, yeah. And now what I've got is I've got two lines of coverage. If this line does the scoring, I have access to it. If this line does the scoring, I have access to it. And these two overlap a little bit on the power play, which gives me some correlation if one guy passes to the other and he puts it in the net. That helps me on a power play where I get the bonus point. The other technique that I like to do, who did I have for Toronto? Defenseman and Marner. So I run down here to Marner. This was a strict value play. I can't afford some of these guys up here. Marner at 4,500 is on the power play 1. So that gets me exposure to Kadri, and then of course these other line mates that are overlapping on there too. And then when I run down here to, did I say Gardner or Riley? Riley, yes. Riley's on the 1 with them. So there's my overlap, but I've got a big defensive guy getting about 18 to 20 minutes a game sitting on the D1 line. That gets me access up here to the scoring that these guys do. You have to understand the web at which the NHL works, how it kind of weaves and with the line changes and things and who's going to be overlapping who. If these guys do some of the scoring, the studs for Toronto, I've got a little bit of access to it down here if Riley set them up. That's kind of the idea. So if this game goes, 4 or 5 goals in, then I've probably got access to a couple of them by having a power play 1 guy and a defensive 1 guy that has exposure to these guys. Okay, does that make sense? And when I scroll down to, and this is all stuff we teach inside DFS Army all the time, day in and day out. Vegas Golden Knights, again, not wise to pick on the LA defense, especially when LA's at home, but you needed the value, and Vegas is scoring a lot, and they tend to go overlooked. So it's not maybe the worst play in the world, it's just not the best. We've got Carlson at center, and we've got Tuch down here on line 3. I don't like line 3 guys, but I needed the money. So I made sure that I paired him with a power play 2 guy. Since I'm going off the line, again, I've got now 2 different lines that overlap on that power play as opposed to 2 of the same guys on the same line and the same power play unit like I did in Tampa Bay. So this one is spread out a little bit. If Vegas scores 2 or 3 goals and it comes from either of these lines, I've got access to the goal. I don't care if these guys, I don't want them to score all the goals, tonight. So that's kind of how I've spread things out. I've targeted some high potent offenses that are scoring generally among the league leaders night in and night out. I don't have the best matchups in the world. This may require some refining, but for a quick lineup that I threw together, there you go. Now, I'm playing very, very light tonight. I'm only going to throw $1 in there, and I put it in a 100-man tournament. Why? Because a 100-man tournament is winnable with a chalky type of lineup with Stamkos and Kucherov types, and it also favors a little bit of upside, being that it pays 25x, to the dollar when you win the thing. You can beat 100 people fairly easily, and you get paid 25 times your entry fee, which is nice. But being that it has upside and it is a little bit more related to a GPP, that's where these Vegas Knights guys will play in there. Not a lot of people will be touching the Knights tonight because they're going up against LA, so if they end up having a good night, I've probably got fairly low ownership on them. I've also got fairly low ownership probably on my goalie. If he pulls out a win, I don't expect him to, but if he pulls out a win and these guys go off, then I'm set up well because the rest of my lineup is pretty chalky, and that's how you win 100-man contests. If you want a few more tips like this, you need to tune into, like I said, dfsarmy.com. You need to use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Get yourself that 10% discount. Jump in, talk to the guys that are sitting here in the channels night in and night out, and make yourself a better hockey player. Take care, guys.